Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
Larry here. Before we dive into this episode, I want to share something with you that I'm really excited about. Are you ready to connect with your clients on a deeper level and truly make a difference in their lives? Then discover your authentic selling style with Selling from the Heart. At sellingfromtheheart.net/selling-style, you'll find a powerful online program that will help you tap into your unique strengths and abilities to create authentic and successful sales interactions. If you want to show up authentically for your prospects and clients to grow your sales, we created this just for you. So head on over to sellingfromtheheart.net/selling-style now and discover your authentic selling style today.
Welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
All kinds of things. I love our new music. I just had flashbacks to like in high school and sitting in a concert. I don't know why, but I had to throw that out there.
All right,
Darrell.
come back, Larry. Come back. This is going to be a great episode. We got Dave Kurlan in the house.
We're in for a
have
treat.
A fantastic time today. And I hope you're enjoying the new format. One of the things that we love doing, we love this community of authentic sales professionals that's rising up literally all over the world. And we got a shout out to our friend Aaron Woods today.
Yeah. And what I love about Aaron Woods is I finally got to meet Aaron Woods a couple weeks ago when I did a sales kickoff for a really heart-centered company. And I just have to give a shout out, but Aaron's read the Selling from the Heart. Not only has he read it, he's listened to it 3 times. And Aaron goes on to say this: third time reading, listening, not your typical. I know. So cool. And by the way, he lives in your backyard, Darrell. He goes, third time reading and listening. And this is not your typical sales book. Dives into what takes to separate yourself from the used car salesman and how to cure commission breath. Totally love it. Thanks, Aaron.
Beautiful.
Great mix of content to keep you engaged. I love Aaron Woods. Thank you.
Yeah, Aaron, you're a true Selling from the Heart champion. Thanks for sharing that review on the book. And we read every single review that comes in on the book, on the podcast, on whatever platform you're listening on. Thank you to everybody that's leaving reviews. And by the way, we'd love to get to know you. And one of the best ways to get to know me and Larry and other professionals that are like-hearted sales professionals, come hang out with us in the Insiders group. We talk about it all the time in the podcast. So if you haven't been yet, why haven't you come to hang out with us? It is so great being in that virtual room with other like-hearted professionals, sharing their hearts, getting solutions to problems, encouraging each other. It's absolutely incredible, the Selling from the Heart Insiders group.
Yeah, well, what's totally great about this, everyone, is this: we meet 4 times a month. Twice we mastermind. Twice we bring thought leaders, authors, people that are near and dear to us. We bring them right smack close to you in what we call up close and personals. We're bringing our network right into our Insiders group, and this is what makes this thing totally cool.
Yeah, so you can come hang out with us. You get a free pass. Go to sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass, sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass, and come hang out with us at the next Up Close and Personal. You're absolutely going to love it.
Hey, Darrell, you know what I just thought of this? I just dropped the word totally cool. That is so embarrassing.
You're so California. Well, we've got a great guest today. He's in the green room. He's ready to roll. His name is Dave Kurlan. He's a top-rated speaker, best-selling author, sales development industry pioneer. And he was inducted in the Sales and Marketing Hall of Fame back in 2012. He's the founder of Objective Management Group. This, you probably already know, is the industry leader in sales assessment and Salesforce evaluations, which gives him a front row seat to some of the most interesting data points in sales, which we'll talk about today. And Larry, he's the author of Mindless Selling and the bestseller Baseline Selling: How to Become a Sales Superstar by using what you already know about the game of baseball.
Oh, there we go.
Dave, welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast. It's great to have you here.
Hey guys, it's cool to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey Dave, this is going to be great because we got two baseball guys that are going to beat up on Darrell through this whole podcast. I love it.
What's your team, Larry?
Oh, of course, the Dodgers. All you got to do is look over my shoulders.
The Dodgers. Love the Dodgers. We're half Dodgers now in Boston.
That's all good. That's good. We won't go there.
It's fun here today. And Dave, you know the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers to kick off the episode, and that is, what does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
To me, it's all about showing your passion. And so many salespeople stiffen up when they meet a prospect for the first time, when they need to present something. But like hanging out with you guys before the show started, kidding around and laughing. And even funny people tend to stiffen up and get all too serious and act all too professional. And that's not who they really are. You've got to be able to lighten up with people. And if you really love what you're doing, selling professionally, and you love what you're selling, then you've got to let that come through. So be who you are, lighten up, let your passion come through, and people will see that and want to do business with you.
I love this because not only do we bring passion to everything we do here at Selling from the Heart, but when you combine it with purpose, that just magnifies everything. So, it's so interesting, Dave, because we hear it all. I mean, we've heard them over and over and over throughout the years. What's it mean to sell from the heart? And I think we haven't heard the word passion for a while. I'm glad you brought it up.
I'm passionate about this podcast.
There you go.
Yeah, it just lighten up too. That's just yes.
Why have fun? Geez, that would take all the seriousness out of it.
Well, I love you've had a very, very interesting front row seat to trends of what's been going on in sales, what works and what doesn't at Objective Management Group. And to me, this is really, really fascinating because there's a lot of pontificators out there that have opinions about what works and what doesn't. But you've got data, what's going on. So I'm just curious, as we're sitting here, we're at the dawn of 2023. We're looking forward. It's an interesting world we're in right now. What's going on out there in the world of sales that has your attention?
That's a great question. Everything has my attention. And, we've got so much data that once in a while, it's important to look at the data differently than we look at it historically. Like when I write an article, or I do a video rant and I start referring to percentages, average scores, percent that are strong, percent that are weak, the differences between the strong and the weak. Once in a while, you have to go through the data and put some date filters on it. Like, what was this like before COVID hit? And what was this like in the middle of lockdowns? And what's it like since we kind of sort of maybe got back to normal, except for still selling virtually over video? And a lot of stuff doesn't change, like tactical selling competencies didn't change between the before, the during, and the after. But you know what did change is competencies like desire for success in sales and commitment to do whatever it takes to achieve that success in sales, and motivation and excuse making. That stuff was all over the place during lockdown. And what's interesting is that the folks who made excuses before the pandemic continued to make excuses. The folks who didn't make excuses before the pandemic didn't make excuses during the pandemic. But one of the changes that we saw was a big drop in motivation, big change in outlook, how people were feeling about themselves, big change in commitment. All the average scores on all three of those dropped 10 points.
Wow.
For the year or so, between when lockdown started in March of 2020 till we really kind of came out of it in the summer of 2021. And then everything after 2021 was back to pre-COVID percentages and scores. So it was pretty cool to see the data change along with what was going on. But the thing that's got my attention right now is, as selling is starting to get a little more difficult, as big companies are starting to put some spending freezes in place on discretionary purchases, as salespeople are starting to find there's more competition for less business, the ability to differentiate is front and center. And differentiation comes from their ability to take a consultative approach. And consultative selling, whatever form of it you're using, let's narrow it down to the ability to effectively listen and ask great questions. That is the lowest scoring competency out of the 21 that we measure at Objective Management Group. And the best salespeople, even the top 5%, aren't great at selling consultatively. There's a huge gap between the top 5% and the bottom 50%. But even the best salespeople in the world could be better at that. And then the other thing is qualifying, because salespeople are wasting a ton of time pursuing opportunities that they have no chance of winning. The companies are spending all kinds of money on proposal generation and quoting, and win rates are going down, 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 down. I'm sure you see that too. It's just rampant. And you referenced some of the articles I've written recently. One of the most recent articles showed that top salespeople were 8,600% better at qualifying than the bottom 50%.
Wow.
That 50% that doesn't hit quota every month, every quarter, every year, that's the weakest 50% for the most part. The top 5%, 8,600% better at qualifying. And that's a huge difference maker.
Oh, this is good stuff. I really want to camp on these two things, consultative and qualifying, if we can. And let's just continue to peel this back, Dave. I want to go back to consultative because I want you just to expand on this a little bit more, if you will, is because so many salespeople out there, and I'll throw a dart at it, say they're consultative sellers.
Oh, yeah.
But let's just stop and think about this, just through your research and some of the data that you've extracted from this. How do you define what a consultative seller is versus what you see out there, people saying they're consultative sellers?
Well, I think that's the right question to be asking. And that's the right conversation for us to have, because I've been noticing for 20 years anyhow, that if you ask 100 people what consultative selling is, you get 100 different answers. Nobody has a freaking clue. And even if you teach them the right way to take a consultative approach, even if you teach them about a sequence of uncovering a need and finding a compelling reason why they would buy and a compelling reason why they would buy it from you, finding issues, finding the consequences behind those issues, the financial impact to those issues. You ask 30 really good questions and have the difficult conversation that nobody else has had. Even if you teach it the right way, they'll go back and apply it and say, okay, I got to ask more questions. So they'll pre-script 2 or 3 questions and I'll ask them, and then I'll jump to a presentation anyhow. And with every question, it becomes more and more uncomfortable for them to ask yet another follow-up question. And qualifying, screw that. We'll skip the qualifying. Who needs qualifying? Let's just, they're going to take the path of least resistance to the very thing they're most comfortable with, which is talking about themselves, talking about their company, talking about their product, talking about their service, and trying to give them the lowest possible price.
Yeah, the concept around listening with that is really, really powerful. We talk a lot here at Selling from the Heart about trust. We train around trust building skills. And I think this, you talk to a lot of salespeople. I think one of the reasons they give up is they don't feel like they give up on this questioning thing 2 or 3 questions in and just dive into I guess I'll just pull out the slide deck, because maybe they don't feel like the client is opening up. And in my opinion, when that prospect is not forthcoming or opening up, to me, that's like a huge red flag that you haven't established enough trust yet to be able to have the depth of conversation. I'm curious what you see when you look at the data around trust and how prospects are interacting with salespeople.
Well, it's kind of neat. how all the stuff plays together.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I go all the way back to selling professionally in 1973. So I've been doing this literally for 50 years. And I know that dates me pretty good, but it is.
Love it.
And back in the 60s.
It's all good, Dave. You're as old as Darrell, so it's all good.
Back in the 60s and the 70s, all you needed was a relationship. If they liked you, they bought from you. It was that simple. And liking you hasn't gone away. That's still a criteria, but it's probably one of 10 or 15 criteria now. So one of the raps on salespeople is that they're still doing relationship selling. But we've evaluated a lot of those relationship sales teams, the ones that will elongate the sales cycle to build a relationship so that the prospect feels compelled to buy because of the relationship. And those relationships just aren't there. They're in the salesperson's heads. Salespeople score pretty poorly on relationship building. And what they don't understand about relationships is if you truly have a good relationship, then you're going to be the first call that prospect or customer makes. And they're going to tell you what's going on. And it's your business to lose. If you have a relationship that's only in your own mind, you'll find out what's going on, but it might be too late to do anything about it. So for as much attention as salespeople think they're placing on relationship building, they pretty much suck at it. The other thing that's key it's reaching decision makers. Salespeople aren't getting to decision makers. And so if we look at this convergence of relationship building and consultative selling, selling value can be added to the picture, and qualifying. So if salespeople don't uncover a compelling reason to buy, part of a consultative approach, and don't peel the onion back far enough to get to consequences, personal impact, and the ability to monetize the whole thing. All of that creates urgency. If they don't get to urgency, then they get to nice to have. And we see this with tech companies. You know, they do a demo and the people on the other end go, cool. But that's all it is. It's cool. It's nice to have. And when all they get is nice to have, then whoever it is that they're selling to, they don't have a compelling reason either to get a decision maker engaged, to get some ridiculous amount of money approved for purchase. So that's the opportunity just sits in the pipeline and never moves forward. That's the epitome of a stalled opportunity. But if we're uncovering those compelling reasons to buy and creating urgency, the urgency gets the decision maker engaged. And the decision maker can spend the money. And the decision maker, if it's important enough, will qualify himself. And qualification doesn't have to be pulling teeth. When there's urgency, they'll basically say, what do you need from me? And they'll literally qualify themselves. So relationship building, consultative selling, selling value, reaching decision makers, they're all interconnected. When salespeople do those things well, they get the business most of the time. And when they suck at doing those things, that's when we have one of those proposals that doesn't close or opportunity that gets stuck in the middle of the pipeline.
Oh man, I love this because it goes, what you just said, Dave, goes hand in hand with what we talk about at Selling from the Heart all the time when it comes to building trust and credibility. It's about building authentic relationships and bringing meaningful business value. And what I just admire about what you just said is you just threw the gauntlet down, and I loved how many times you used the suck word, but it's that's a mirror moment because you used relationship selling. And how many times do I see salespeople think they have really great relationships with their clients, yet they haven't unpacked what the relationship means to their clients?
Exactly. It's in their head.
It's in the head.
It's a fantasy.
It's like happy years. I heard what I wanted to hear. So we're going to close this next Tuesday.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, we're going to take a brief break right now, and we've got a Selling from the Heart champion that we're going to hear from today. He's our good friend, John Schroeder. And John is going to share with us what it means to him to sell from the heart And we're going to hear from John after a brief word from our sponsors. Hey, are you ready to take your sales to the next level? At Selling from the Heart, we believe that authenticity wins. And that's why we created the all-new program, Discover Your Authentic Selling Style. This is a powerful program that will help you tap into your unique strengths and abilities to create authentic and successful sales interactions. If you believe in selling from the heart and want to grow your sales, we created this course just for you. So head over to sellingfromtheheart.net/selling-style and discover your authentic selling style today.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Jackie, Bill, Larry, and Darrell, and everything that you guys have done in the last year that I've been affiliated with Selling from the Heart, and really what it means to me, John Schroeder, one of the many royals across the globe. And that is I always think I've been a little on that side, but I think just, bringing the awareness to the forefront, for me personally on a day-to-day basis with all the interactions I have, whether it's personal or it's professional, just being more intentional, being more purposeful, and just heartfelt, and just truly giving a rip about other people. Thanks for all you guys do, and I really appreciate being a part of this community.
I love Schroeder. Every time that guy drops a video, Dave Kurlan, there's rock and roll music in the background. I don't know why, but it just goes to show you when that guy grew up. But it's all good. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, Schroeder. What a blast. Hey,
some edgy music to my rants.
That's right. Well, we were talking before that about this fantasy world that some sales professionals, maybe a lot of sales professionals live in. And the fantasy, I see two parts of this fantasy. One is I got this incredible relationship. Like we're so tight, me and this buyer. And then the second thing is we're fantasizing about the value that we're bringing to them, and that they understand how this is going to solve their top 3 business problems or personal issues and all of that. When you look at the data, how can you tell? I'm just curious around this. Like, how can you tell whether a rep or a candidate even is going to live in that fantasy world, or whether they're going to be a little bit more realistic about the status of the relationship and the deal?
Well, there's a few ways we see that in the data. One place is we have a competency called responsibility. And whether they take responsibility for their results or they rationalize away their results. An example, hey, boss, got this great opportunity and I'm going to close it tomorrow for $150,000. Fast forward tomorrow. Need some fast forward effect music like, and boss says, hey, Tony, how'd you make out? You wouldn't believe it. I thought we had this deal. They didn't go with us. They went with those guys. Why? Well, they came in with a better price. That might be true, but that's excuse making, right? We rationalized that it was a better price. So I like to talk about the index and the thumb, the index finger and the thumb. When they point to the competition, or they point to the prospect was a jerk and wouldn't listen, or they point to their own company and you didn't give me the pricing we needed, or you weren't responsive enough and it took an extra day. That index finger always points externally. That's rationalizing. Maybe factual, but rationalizing. But if they use the finger, if they use the thumb, that must be the gap in between the index finger and the thumb, the finger.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks.
Internally, and they need to be able to say, I wasn't effective enough at selling our value. I wasn't effective enough at overcoming the price objection that I got. I wasn't effective enough at overcoming the fact that we know those guys always have a lower price. And when they rationalize, there's nothing we could do as coaches and trainers and managers to make them any better, because they haven't accepted that they need to be better. But if they use the thumb, they say it was me, it was my fault, I take responsibility. Then we can start coaching. That's an invitation to ask, so what could you have done differently? And figure out why that didn't happen. And the reason it didn't happen is more often probably going to be found in their sales DNA a weakness that made them uncomfortable than it is in their skill set. They probably knew what they could have done, should have done in that moment, but weren't comfortable enough saying it, asking it, discussing it. So they stuck it under the rug and ignored it and just ended up with that outcome. So that's one of the ways that we can see those happy years is when they don't take responsibility for the results. We can also see it in their qualifying competency. There's 12 different attributes that make up the qualifier competency. And the lower that score is, the more likely it is that they're just seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. We can also see it in the quality of the questions they're asking. We can see it in the pipeline analysis we do. We have them introduce 4 late-stage proposal-ready or closable opportunities. We ask them 19 questions about each of those opportunities. And when we do a couple of things with all that information, we rate the quality of an organization's pipeline, the percentage of opportunities that are high quality, fair quality, and poor quality. And then we restage the pipeline for them. We take all these opportunities, which are supposed to be late stage, and based on the information the salespeople know and validate about those opportunities, we move it into the stage that it should be in. In a sales organization, half of those opportunities are going to go back 2 stages. If we look at the stages as suspect, prospect, qualified, closable for simplistic terms, then half of those opportunities, which should all be qualified or closable, move back to suspect or prospect. So we can see it all over the place in the data.
Hey, I love this. I love this conversation. I just have a quick question for you as I was just listening to what you're saying. It's just about competency. Would you say the stronger the competency, the less the excuse making? Just from your data and your research?
Generally speaking, yes. I would say there's a correlation to that.
Interesting. Well, we've got a lot of sales leaders listening in, and I know, having been a sales leader in days past, I've made some bad hires along the way. And I have a sneaking suspicion that you've got some recommendations for sales leaders to avoid making bad hires up front. What would you say to the sales leaders who, like me, along the way have gone, that wasn't a good one?
Well, first, it's not surprising that about 50% of all hires are bad hires. Sales leaders get it right about half the time. And I wrote an article probably the beginning of January about Malcolm Gladwell's book, Talking to Strangers. 400 pages of why people get it wrong. So sales leaders get lumped into the whole population of people who get it wrong. And it's about why humans make such lousy judges of people they don't know. And one of the great examples in the book, and there are dozens of examples, from literally New York City judges to the CIA, to criminal prosecutors, psychological experiments with PhDs. He's got everything in there. But the one I liked the best was the New York judges, where they took 550,000 cases, and the judges had to make a determination about who to let out on bail and what to set for a bail amount. And out of those 550,000 cases, 400,000 people were released. And then they took those same 500,000 cases and they had computer software go through the same cases and pick the 400,000 that should be released. And the software program and the judges all had the same information to work from. It was a criminal record and their age. And the judges had one more thing. They got to meet face to face and look the defendant in the eye and ask them questions. So the judges had extra real information. The computer outperformed the judges by 25% in determining who should be let out, with the criteria being whether or not they perpetrated another crime while they were out on bail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the whole takeaway from the book is that people suck at this. They just people are good at judging honest people who are acting honestly.
Mm-hmm.
We get that. People are good at judging dishonest people who are acting dishonestly. We can do that. But people suck at judging honest people who are acting dishonestly and dishonest people who are acting honestly. Yeah, con men. And it's no surprise that sales leaders get it right half the time. But good, accurate, predictive, customizable sales candidate assessment, like the one that OMG happens to put out, takes all of that judgment out of the picture, takes the bias out of the picture, and allows you to just rely on data to determine who to interview. And then in the interview, if they're all recommended, then out of the folks you're interviewing, you hire the ones that you love. Sales leaders fall in love with a candidate and hire the ones they like without there having been a filter in place to narrow it down to people who will succeed in the role.
Oh, this is fascinating because what Dave just said, let's just apply this into the sales world. Because just as sales leaders may be trying to find that ideal sales candidate based on certain criteria, can't the same be said when a salesperson is presenting why they should do business with that person? So if we flip this around, right, you're on a job interview for that prospective client. Mm-hmm. And that same word that comes up that I heard Dave use is judging. They're judging you right away based on appearance, based on their criteria, based on what comes out of your mouth, based on your tonality and how you carry yourself. So it's interesting because we could tie that both together in a couple different ways.
Yeah, all the job offers that get made to great candidates who don't take the job because they decided to take a different job or they just didn't like the idea of working for you. Yeah, works both ways. And people buy that way too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really fascinating. I want to recommend that everybody listening in follows your blog because you have some really, really interesting things to say. Dave, before we jump off here, how can folks get more Dave Kurlan in their life?
More Dave Kurlan.
Come on, dude. Don't think about it, Kurlan. Just let it go.
Okay, so my blog is omghub.com, Objective Management Group hub.com, omghub.com. And you can email me at my other email address for Kurlan and Associates, dkurlan, Kurlan, at kurlanassociates.com.
Awesome. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. We'll have to have you back to talk about baseball sometime when the baseball season is up and running.
I think you'll have to have me back about 4 or 5 times because we didn't even start the conversation.
It's all good. You're welcome back anytime, Dave.
So fun. And look, I love the work you're doing. You've been such an incredible resource to the sales industry for so many decades, and just a huge honor to share time with you today. Dave, thanks for investing in us today here at Selling from the Heart.
Hey, thanks so much for thinking of me and inviting me to join you guys so we could laugh a little.
Yeah, you're awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, Larry, what a fantastic conversation. This, so many different nuggets inside here for us to consider right now.
And especially if we look at where we're at now, and if we even look throughout 2023, this is where, and I love the conversation we got around competency. I love the conversation we got around, we have to be able to create differentiation as well. And there's so many ways that we can do this, but that's why there'll always be a difference between a sales professional and a sales rep. And it all boils down for me, it's, are we willing to remove the excuses and just do what we need to do?
Absolutely. And this is the time to do that. It's time to get honest about our relationships and honest about a real assessment of the stuff that's in our pipeline. Do we really understand the value? I thought what Dave was saying at the beginning about consultative selling was really, really important and really, really critical, especially right now as companies are scrutinizing their budget quite a bit more than they were maybe previously. So this might be a rewind episode to go back and take some notes. We've got an incredible roster of guests coming up throughout the rest of this winter and into the spring. I just can't wait. I almost just want to jump right to the next episode. We got to record it first. We're going to have some good conversations. I've gotten to see the people on the list. So you want to make sure to like or subscribe wherever you listen or watch Selling from the Heart. And a huge shout out to everybody watching us on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing and leaving us a review there as we grow our video presence. And this movement of authentic sales professionals, Larry, is just so cool. Watching it spread all across the world and across multiple industries in this community. You want to come hang out with us in the Insiders Group. I guarantee you're going to absolutely love it.
No, absolutely. And this movement starts with all of you. We just got to take one step at a time, because when we started this, it was all based on a movement, and it was about bringing authenticity, integrity, and trust back into the sales profession. It's a noble profession. Let's carry ourselves the same way.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you to everybody listening in. Till next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, be consultative with your clients, and most of all, sell from the heart.